Hey guys, so today I'll starting with my series, and in these kind of series, I will be clubbing 5 or 6 problems together, and I will be teaching you guys so that you can club these concepts, you can grasp the technique, and then you can apply this technique during the interview. And something which I want to share with you guys because I'm selecting these questions based on the fact that these questions occur frequently during the interviews, and the interviewer knows that you will start messing up, you will start messing the basic concepts over here, and you might, since during the pressure you might confuse yourself and write the wrong logic. So that's why I felt this is a very important topic. And the next thing which I want to discuss over here is that key, whenever we solve one question now, we forget to link that question to our previous knowledge. So we are solving in an isolated state. We are not solving in a state where we are clubbing these concepts or applying and reusing the pre-existing concepts. So these things become very obsolete. So that's why it's very important that we start clubbing these concepts. And if you have any suggestions that you want to club such problems together, so to improve your problem solving skills, let me know in the comment section. So let's get started. And I'm going to share some common techniques which are effectively used, right? So whenever you detect an interval based questions, right? These are the only common strategies which can be effectively used. Okay? You can memorize it. I have no problem in that because these are the, I don't know if you have discovered anything, but these are the only strategy which I have personally used during the solving of any lead code question, right? So the first technique is like we can solve by start time. This can be effectively used when we are dealing with the questions like merge or insert, which I put over here. Next, we have sorting by the end time, where we use for the greedy selections or minimum removable. Okay. Next is the two pointers based approach. Again, a pretty good question, which is heavily used. And we have min heap and line sweep as well. So in this lecture, actually, I'm not going to cover some of the topics over here like min heap and line sweep, but effectively in the, because I felt the length of the video will become too long and it will be very it's not very fair for your brain to digest so much information. I mean, I know I'm clubbing the concept together, but the clubbing should be such that it can sufficiently fit in your brain, right? So let's get started and let's discuss the first question. The first question says that we have an array of interval. Okay, we have an array of interval with start and end. Okay, and we have to return the minimum number of intervals you need to remove to make the rest of the intervals non-overlapping. Okay, so if I have to explain in your simple English, you have given an interval list. We are given an interval list with the start and end time. And what you have to do is that in that list, there are some intervals which are causing the list to become overlapping. So by the definition, you need to remove those lists so that you need to remove those entries so that your final list will look like a non-overlapping interval. Okay? So if I have to draw for you guys, let's say that ki ye entry hai A to B. Okay, let's say that there is another entry C to D. Now you can clearly see that there is an overlap which has happened. So now in the basic case, you can remove anything. You can remove this list, or you can remove this list, right? So the very first thing which confusion which happens for this question is that what interval I should select. Like how they go. Whenever interval questions are given, you need to question yourself that whether the given list is in a sorted format or not. Because if the list is not in a sorted fashion, then intervals can appear in any fashion and you cannot solve it. And no matter what you do, you cannot even solve it. So we have to take care of that. The next given thing over here is that now we have decided that we need to implement some sorting strategy. What will be the optimal sorting strategies? Okay. So I had told you over here that the optimal sorting strategies, almost in all of the questions which I have encountered, it is either based on the start or it is either based on the end. मतलब जब भी इंटरव्यू क्वेश्चन दिया रहेगा तुम्हें या तो स्टार्ट दिया रहेगा तुम्हें या तो एंड दिया रहेगा एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट यू हैव टू डिसाइड दैट how my list should look like. So whenever such things come, you need to take an example. You need to keep best thing is that you need, whenever this interval question comes, you need to always question yourself that let's start with a basic example. Okay. Now in the non-overlapping list, non-overlapping intervals, let's say that if we had started with the start time, okay, we started with this sorted the list with the start time. What I mean by that is that I have selected the list which starts earliest. Okay, which starts earliest. Okay, that looks like a pretty fancy strategy, but now the strategy can fail too. Okay, the strategy can fail too. But let's understand with a very basic example. In this given example, we don't have anything fancy. We have two lists. We let's call it A, let's call it B, and both of these lists are in a sorted fashion. They are not causing any overlapping it. Okay? But now the thing you have to do is that whenever you're dealing with such questions, you have to ask yourself, ki, what kind of worst case which can apparently happen if I use the start strategy or a technique. ठीक है तो देखो, if you give the time to the guy who based on जो there is a okay, just try to imagine like this. You are the entry gate person, ठीक है, entry gate person of a meeting room. You're the security guard. Now a person A comes to you and says that, hey, since I have arrived earlier, I want to occupy the meeting room. And now you say that, oh, since you have arrived earlier, I will give you the meeting room. ठीक है, but understand one thing. Since you have allocated based on the start time, you do not know how long that guy will be in that room. ठीक है, it's a meeting room. And the next thing over here is that कि now let's say that another person A completed his job, he conducted its meeting and A left, and now the meeting room is empty. Now another B person comes and B person says that, hey, now I want a meeting room. Now you can clearly see that, hey, the meeting room is empty, you can use it. So we know that there was no overlap, but the strategy which we followed worked here, right? But let's try to take worst example. Okay, things always get messed up. Let's say that A occupied the room for a very long time. Okay, and I'm also going to delete B because let's see what might happen over here. So let's keep extending the A, and let's say that A occupied the you're the security guard, and you said that, hey, I will A has arrived earlier and said that ki, hey, I want to use the meeting room, and you said that, okay, you're fine, you can use it because you arrived first. But you did not know how long that meeting is gonna end. You do not had that information because you were just saying ki first come first serve basis pay, you were doing that. So what might happen over here is that ki, there might be a lot of different people. Let's say B would have arrived, and B would have arrived here and would have asked for a short time of with short window of time. ठीक है? B would have said that ki, hey, I want a meeting for a very small window. But you as a and security guard said that no, A has occupied it. I do not know when it will exit. Similarly, a lot of people started to come at different interval time. Now let's say that B cannot use it, so obviously we'll mark it X. C has also arrived, we mark it as X, and D has also arrived and we mark it as X because these people cannot use the meeting room. Now, what might happen here is that giving the one person the meeting room, you have disallowed all these smaller group because your strategy was bad. Your strategy was the start strategy. If we had known कि A was using the meeting room for a very long time, we would have said that na कि no dude, since you are using the meeting room for a very long time, we are not going to give you. And what is the given strategy and how we can write in the terms of algorithm? If we know, देखो यहाँ पे एक अच्छी बात क्या है कि the order we already know the order in which all these given elements are coming into the picture. So B would be coming with the end time E1, C would be coming with E2, and this D will be coming with E3. If somehow we would have stored that information, if somehow we would have sorted this list such that we know that ki E1 comes first, E2 comes next, and E3 comes next, and finally this one, we know that we only had to kick out A. All the other three peoples could have been easily part of this meeting room, right? So the I hope you understand why we are using the strategy of end time over here. So after this question does not have any strength to it once you understand how we are eventually going to put down this thing. So I'm just going to start showing you the code. I just sorted it via the end time. Okay. Now the question says that ki you need to you need to have the minimum removal. So via the strategy, you are ensuring that since all the other BCD got their meeting room, A A is the only candidate which is getting kicked out. So using this strategy, we are ensured that this will give me the best min count as possible, right? So that's what we are eventually going to do. So we are going to allocate the meeting room to the very first person. Okay, we are going to allocate because even had arrived here first. We will say that, hey, even you can use this room. Now what we are going to do is that from this point onward, we're going to check if there are any overlapping intervals or not. So let's say that after this point, right, there is another person which has arrived over here, and the another person says that, hey, I want to use the meeting room, but you know that meeting room has already been occupied by B. right? Meeting room is already occupied by B. What you do? You say that, hey, dude, I'm sorry, I cannot allow it, right? But let's say that there is another person which has arrived, but now that but this condition I will discuss how we are going to handle this condition. But in case if no one is using the meeting room, you just assign that meeting room to the candidate which asked for it, right? Now the only thing which you need to understand is the next start wala problem. Okay, so try to understand it over here. The meeting room is only overlapping between if based on this category. Okay, I will put it like this. Let's say that this is the current one. Okay, this is the current start and this is the current end, right? If this is the current start and this is the current end, and let's say that there is a new candidate which has arrived here. Okay, now what can happen? See, this is the next start and this candidate will have the next end. So what strategy which we followed over here was that we ensured that the earlier one was getting the interview chance. But what might happen is that when the overlapping can happen. So whenever you deal with the overlapping, right, you always need to take care with the next start, which is exactly which I have written over here, which is intervals I comma 0. You just need to check if this next start is less than current end. And if it is, मतलब ये जो डॉट है ना, इसकी इसकी जो वैल्यू है, द वैल्यू ऑफ दिस डॉट विल लाई बिटवीन करेंट स्टार्ट एंड करेंट एंड, राइट? आई मीन समथिंग, and all we need to check is that if it lies less than if the value of the next start is less than current end. ठीक है, it is if it is less than the current end, it means कि it is causing an overlapping, and if it is causing an overlapping, you are sure that we cannot give the meeting room to this next, and that's why we are going to mark it as we are going to increment the min count. So that this is what our problem is saying. So at the end of the day, we just return the minimum count. So this was all about the given problem, right? Now let's start discussing the another problem. Now we are going to discuss the problem called insert intervals, right? So insert intervals may be as a custodian, but now we need to decide which strategy which we want to effectively use over here. Again, I will draw this graph for you guys. Okay, again, I will try to draw this graph for you guys because it might get confusing. Okay, this is where we want to देखो, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you're able to get to the end of the video and understanding this thing, you have become stronger. Trust me that. Stay with me till the end of the video. So, but I have okay. What we will eventually do is that let's start reading the problem. Again, we are given an array of non-overlapping intervals. Try to understand. This is a non-overlapping intervals, right? And since this is a non-overlapping, and we do not need to worry about कि क्या हो सकता है, ठीक है? Intervals अपने आप है. तो अब the next thing over here is that we are given in the same fashion start and end, and the next thing we have you have been told is that they are sorted in the ascending order by the start time. Okay, now इसमें क्या है ना कि now you want to insert this newly interval. You need to insert this newly intervals that represent the start and the end of the interval, another interval. ठीक है, तो मतलब क्या है कि तुम्हारे पास एक लिस्ट है, मीटिंग रूम का लिस्ट है, and now you need to insert this new interval over here. ठीक है, so this is a pretty straightforward question. मतलब there are some questions where you want to, there are some question which you want to use heavy brain, but this question is something which you have to do as it says, nothing fancy. So that's why I selected this problem, because again I do not want people confusing कि इसमें कैसे करेंगे क्या करेंगे. ठीक है, I'll just draw the thing over here. So let's say कि, but the problem is that the only problem which you need to recognize over here is the how will you handle if the newly inserted interval cause an overlap, right? So this is what the question says, that you can, if the newly interval such that it is sorted and still does not have a, and then list does not have any overlapping intervals, merge overlapping. यहाँ पे लिखा है कि जो भी overlapping intervals है ना उसको merge कर देना, ठीक है? And we know that कि आप इसको आराम से कर सकते हैं. अब बताओ कि now I had earlier explained you strategy, right? And I had earlier explained you strategy how we are going to handle these kind of cases. So let's say that this is a new sorted interval. This is a new insert interval, sorry. And let's call it current S and let's call it current end. है ना? And let's try to write down the previous intervals. ठीक है? So हो सकता है ना कि इसके लिए एक तो एक काफी अच्छा केस हो जाएगा कि there is a no overlapping which has happened, right? Once you keep on iterating, you find out that hey, my current end is this. After this current end, I have the current start. This the next start is this. ठीक है? And between this, there are no given elements, so I can safely insert this new intervals on my list, right? You can fairly do this. But agar question itna, if the question was easy as this, do you think they would have made a whole lead code question medium, at least for this question? No. So one thing is for sure, all the intervals which are not causing an overlap, which are those intervals? Can you guys think? Right? How will you decide? The very first question is that there will be certain set of intervals which will cause an overlap. There will be certain set of intervals which will not cause an overlap. ठीक है? इस क्वेश्चन को दो पार्ट में डिवाइड करेंगे, ओवरलैप and non-overlap. So I like talking about the non-overlap one because it makes my life easier. So how will we handle non-overlapping? So you know that कि देखो current जो newly inserted interval है, ठीक है, उसके पहले भी कुछ intervals occur हुए रहेंगे. Now the only thing which you need to understand over here is that कि how will you figure out that? So these intervals will also have their end time. Let's say that they have their end time like this, ठीक है? And using this end time, you can figure out that if these intervals are to the left hand side of this current S. If they are left hand side, you can create a new list and keep pushing all the non-overlapping intervals. Right? You can keep pushing all the non-overlapping intervals. Now, overlapping कब हो जाएगा? ठीक है? Overlapping कब हो जाएगा? Now, let me start deleting it. I'll explain you how the overlapping will happen. So, overlapping will happen when the current end this becomes greater than current s. सॉरी, द करंट एंड इज मतलब जो प्रीवियस लिस्ट का जो मैंने जितना भी इंसर्ट किया ना, देखो तुमने बाकी सब लिस्ट में इंसर्ट कर दिया नॉन ओवरलैपिंग. अभी जितने भी लिस्ट में एंट्रीज बचे हैं, अभी wherever your pointer was, all the intervals will be pointing out to the elements which would have caused an overlap, right? Now we need to figure out how we can justify it via we will write some conditions over here, right? We will write some conditions. How will we justify the condition? Is via this, and let me show you by the code itself, right? It will become very easy. So as I said, add all intervals before new intervals. Now, the next thing which you need to understand, there will be a lot of intervals which would have caused a merge conflict, and we need to resolve that. So पहला चीज तो मेरे को क्लियर कट दिख रहा है कि मेरा जो न्यू इंटरवल है उसका अगर करंट स्टार्ट है s, एंड एक जो ये इंटरवल जो मेरा करंट लिस्ट है उसका i मैं इधर मेंटेन कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है? एंड इफ द एंड उसका मेरा लेफ्ट हैंड साइड है, तो दैट मीन्स इट इज नॉट कॉजिंग एन ओवरलैप. अगर ये कंडीशन फॉल्स हो गया, मतलब ये ओवरलैप करना चालू हो जाएगा. एज सिंपल एज दैट. ठीक है? नाउ व्हाट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड इज दैट हाउ विल यू हैंडल द ओवरलैपिंग कंडीशन. So that for it, I will just try to start on a fresh new page because I know there will be a lot of gitched picture in your mind. So what when might happen is that कि this new interval could cover lot of smaller intervals also. Think like this. तुम्हारी जो लिस्ट है, जो ओरिजिनल लिस्ट है, ओजी बोलूंगा, ओजी लिस्ट, और इसको बोलूंगा न्यू लिस्ट. ठीक है? तो ये न्यू लिस्ट और ये ओरिजिनल लिस्ट है, सॉरी इसको बोलेंगे न्यू इंटरवल. बाय न्यू इंटरवल प्लीज माफ कर दो मुझे. इसको बोलेंगे न्यू इंटरवल, इसको बोलेंगे ओजी लिस्ट. अभी ओजी लिस्ट है तुम्हारी ओरिजिनल लिस्ट. देयर विल बी लॉट ऑफ स्मॉलर एलिमेंट्स व्हिच वुड हैव बीन कॉजिंग सम overlapping thing. Now we need to club them. But how will we club them? But try to understand this thing. There are no overlapping. So we have been asked to insert this given thing, right? We have been asked to insert this given thing, intervals. But let's say for a given example, if the list, if we would have taken the देखो अभी क्या होगा ना कि जैसे ही तुम्हारा एक एंट्री बन गया, तुम्हारा एक एंट्री इधर आ गया करंट टेस्ट के पास, ठीक है? अभी तुम्हें पता है कि अगर जो न्यू लिस्ट मेरी बनेगी, एटलीस्ट उसका मिनिमम स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट कहाँ से रहेगा? करंट जो सबसे मिनिमम रहेगा, क्योंकि ये मिनिमम तो सिलेक्ट नहीं करोगे. लेट्स कॉल दिस मिनिमम अ न्यू इंटरवल. न्यू इंटरवल स्टार्ट. ठीक है? यू वुड हैव सिलेक्टेड द मिनिमम ऑफ द current s, and you would have taken this value. Why? Because we want to merge them. If we want to merge them, we would have selected this, right? And the next thing over here is that we now need to select the max. We now need to select the max of what? The end time. Because जो जल्दी खत्म हो रहा है उसके बेसिस पे हम लोग डिसाइड करेंगे कि जो न्यू इंटरवल है उसको कैसे क्लब करना. ठीक है? So this is how we are going to actually proceed in this given question, right? We are going to proceed. So इसमें एक स्पेसिफिकली चीज दिया है. देखो इसमें यहाँ पे कंफ्यूजन क्या आता है लोगों को कि इंसर्ट न्यू इंटरवल्स इनटू इंटरवल्स सच दैट इंटरवल्स इज स्टिल सॉर्टेड इन दोस ascending order. ठीक है? And the interval still does not have a overlapping and merge overlapping intervals. जितने भी overlapping intervals है उसको merge कर दो. So हो सकता है कि इसमें बाकी सारे जितने एलिमेंट्स होंगे, बट वी डू नॉट नीड टू वरी अबाउट इट एज लॉन्ग इट इज ओवरलैपिंग, वी नीड टू मर्ज देम, वी डू नॉट केयर। सो वाया दिस आई मीन कि देखो, आई वाज टेलिंग यू ना कि पहले इसको मर्ज करना, बट हाउ डू वी मर्ज इट आउट? देयर विल बी लॉट ऑफ स्मॉलर इंटरवल्स बिटवीन दीज थिंग्स। सो एक चीज तो पक्का है कि लिस्ट में अगर अगर इसको क्लब करें, देखो हमारी जो लिस्ट में ऐड करना है, जो आंसर रिटर्न करना है, उसका जो स्टार्ट होगा एटलीस्ट मिन स्टार्ट पे बेस्ड होगा, एंड उसका एंड होगा वो मैक्स एंड पे बेस्ड होगा। तो हमें क्या करना है कि एज लॉन्ग एज देर इज इंटरवल विद ओवरलैपिंग विच इज हैपनिंग, एज लॉन्ग एज देर इज ओवरलैपिंग विच इज हैपनिंग, वी नीड टू keep calculating the max, we need to keep updating our min, as simple as that. एंड फाइनली जो इंसर्ट करेंगे ना, हम क्या इंसर्ट करेंगे? मेन एंड मैक्स, ये अपने ओरिजिनल ओजी लिस्ट, ओजी लिस्ट में, ठीक है? क्योंकि देखना यहाँ पे भी अगर तुम ऐसा सोच रहे हो ना कि तुम्हारे यहाँ पे कंफ्यूजन होगा कि यहाँ पे कोई थोड़ा गैप आ गया, यहाँ पे कोई गैप आ गया, बट अंडरस्टैंड दिस गिव, this gap will be covered by this range, this gap will be covered by this range, so you do not need to worry about those cases, है ना? So I hope you this part is clear, and the only thing which you need to worry about over here is that how will you take care of the condition, how will you take care of the condition it is not causing an it is causing an overlap. तो देखना, understand one thing. सो ये स्टार्ट से हम क्लियरली देख सकते हैं, ठीक है? ये स्टार्ट क्या होगा? कोई भी इंटरवल का स्टार्ट होगा, ठीक है? लेट्स से दैट इफ द स्टार्ट इज लेस देन एंड, इसका जो क्या बोलते हैं भाई इसको, इंटरवल एंड बोलूंगा इसको, ठीक है? इफ द स्टार्ट इज लेस देन इक्वल टू इंटरवल एंड, दैट मीन्स कि ओवरलैपिंग हो रहा है, एंड इफ द ओवरलैपिंग is happening, we can start merging them as follows, which I told you with the min max wala strategy. So I hope you were able to understand that. At the end of the day, we are just going to insert one single interval, and which is this new interval. After that, we are going to push up the remaining intervals. So this was all about this given question. I hope there was no confusion. I tried to explain my this best, but I know there might be some confusion. But okay, we'll discuss later. So let's go ahead and discuss the merge interval question now. Again, we are going to discuss the merge interval question. So even in this question, what might happen is that again you are given intervals with start and end time, and you have to merge all overlapping intervals. यहाँ पे कैसा है कि यहाँ पे तुम्हारे पास इंटरवल्स दिए हैं, एंड यू हैव बीन, तुम्हें खुला बोल दिया कि देखो there are overlapping intervals, and you at the end of the day you have to provide me a list which is non-overlapping, ठीक है? Which is non-overlapping. Now, how would you do this given operation? So मैंने क्या बोला था कि whenever you solving such questions, you always need to remember that how will you solve this given list? How will you solve this given list? Because the question has not explicitly stated that कि this list is in a sorted format or not. So how will you handle that? You will sort it. But again, the confusion comes here. As usual, the confusion comes here that how will we sort this given list? Do we want to sort it? Do we want to sort it based on the end time, or do we want to sort it based on the start time? So I'll bring. I think so. My board is lost. No, my board is not lost. So like now, what understand one thing. We are going to follow this technique anytime, anywhere. ठीक है? Anytime, anywhere. So, but let's understand what if we have done uh, sorting by the start time, and what would have happened if we have done the sorting by the end time, right? For this, I had taken this example specifically. ठीक है? For this, I had taken this example specifically. So, let's say that we draw this given example. Okay, let's मेरा color pencil दे दो मुझे. And let's say that we sorted via the start time. Okay, तो start time पहले sort करेंगे. पहले 1 आया था, उसको यहाँ पे रखेंगे. Or let's say that no, let's say that we do by the end time. I want to purposely do it by the end time. जो पहले जिसका जल्दी खत्म हो रहा है उसको पहले डालते हैं. तो let's say that कि since we let's do that 2, 3, and now there will be 4, 5, and now there will be 1, 10. ठीक है? Now the thing is that कि let's say that you had sorted it via the end time over here, है ना? You had sorted this end time. 3 had appeared first, the end time of 3 had appeared first, that's why you selected this. 5 end time had appeared next, that's why you selected this, and then 10 appeared next after that. So one thing which I want to tell you over here is that ki now देखो, so whenever you're constructing a new list, you would have happily included 2, 3, you would have happily included 4, 5, right? But now you encountered 1, 10. now the things will get messier. Now the things will get messier because your list would have already these entries. Your list would have already these entries. And now you're trying to put 1 comma 10. And what does the question says? The question says that we need to return an array of non-overlapping intervals. We need to return an array of non-overlapping intervals. So to handle this, what we will do is that कि देखो अभी now you have to remove all of this element saying that hey this is causing overlap, hey this is causing overlap, and this will become an expensive approach. I'll tell you that this will become an expensive approach now because eventually तुमने मान लो कि if the story was happily going till n minus 1 the element तक, you would have n minus 1 element in the list. You would have n minus 1 element in the list. And as soon as as soon as the one given element comes and it breaks the whole overlapping logic, then you need to pop all this. You need to remove this entry such that this element is not causing an overlap. And in the worst case, you have to remove n minus 1. So this kind of approach becomes a very difficult to handle kind of case. I mean, I'm not saying you can't handle it, but I'm saying you can at certain point. I'm not even sure. I've seen some code, but maybe my I don't know. You can try it out, but my brain says over here is that ki it will become very expensive. There will be a lot of if else wala conditions, and it will not. We will not be able to handle, right? We will not be able to handle. बिकॉज अभी तुमने क्या किया, इसको रिमूव कर दिया एंड देन जाके तुम इंसर्ट कर रहे हो, तो कॉम्पिटिशनली भी काफी एक्सपेंसिव हो गया ये गिवन अप्रोच. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द ट्रेड ऑफ्स. सो नाउ लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड दैट कि वी हैव सॉर्टेड बेस्ड ऑन द एंड टाइम. We know that ki this becomes very heavy approach. So now what we are eventually going to do over here is ki let's see ki what if we avoid the end time, what if we use the start time itself. ठीक है, via the start time we know that ki 1 comma 10 has appeared first. 1 comma 10 has appeared first. After that क्या appear हो रहा है, 2 comma 3. But we know that this given element is already present in our list. This given element because ये 2 comma 3 जो range है ये already अपने given list में present है. तो all we need to do is that देखो हमने लिस्ट को कैसे सॉर्ट किया, via the start time, and all you have to do is that you need to take the max of this and this. ठीक है, max of this and this. हो सकता है कि तुम्हारे पास यहाँ पे तो 2,3 हो, अभी तो मैक्स कुछ चेंज नहीं होगा. ठीक है, बिकॉज ये जो 2,3 रेंज है दिस इज ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड एज पार्ट ऑफ द 1,10. सो यू डू नॉट हैव टू मॉडिफाई एनीथिंग. द ओनली थिंग विच वी नीड टू वरी अबाउट हियर इज दैट कि अगर ये 3 के जगह कुछ हो जाता 15, तो नाउ योर मर्ज इंटरवल गेट्स चेंज्ड. अभी तो इसमें क्या सिलेक्ट करना है, इसलिए मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ कि जो प्रीवियस लिस्ट का एलिमेंट है ना, प्रीवियस एंड लिस्ट एलिमेंट उसका मैक्स लेना, एंड जो करंट है ना उसका मैक्स लेना. एंड जो तुम्हारा लिस्ट के पीछे है ना, अगर ओवरलैपिंग हो रहा है, देखो अगर ओवरलैपिंग हो रहा है तो लिस्ट के पीछे जो एलिमेंट है उसको क्या करना, इसके इक्वल कर देना, एंड योर क्वेश्चन इज सॉल्व. सो ये क्वेश्चन भी काफी इजी है, इसका काफी छोटा कोड है, पहले सॉर्ट किया हमने. ठीक है, सॉर्ट इफ यू सॉर्ट इट डिफॉल्ट वाया स्टार्ट टाइम ही सॉर्ट होगा. एंड अगर लिस्ट एम्प्टी है या तो फिर नॉन ओवरलैपिंग है तो यू कैन क्विकली इंसर्ट इट. अगर मर्ज overlapping हो रहा है then you need to select the max of that one and the question is solved. So I hope you understood this part. Let's move ahead to the next given question. ये भी क्वेश्चन काफी सिंपल है. ये भी क्वेश्चन क्या बोल रहा है कि we are given an interval list of intersections. We are given an interval list of intersections. So यहाँ पे दो लिस्ट है. ठीक है, there are two given lists which has been provided to us, list 1 and list 2, and both the lists are in a sorted fashion and we need let's say ऐसे कुछ fashion में. ठीक है, and the next list is something like this. Let me choose a different color. And the next list is something like this. And इसमें क्या बोला गया है ना कि हो सकता है कि there are chances the some intervals from some interval क्या, one interval from L1 and one interval from L2 might overlap and produce a smaller and produce something like ये इनका overlapping gap है. Similarly this interval का भी overlapping gap होगा, ये ओवरलैपिंग गैप है, एंड सिमिलरली इस इंटरवल का ये ओवरलैपिंग गैप है. ठीक है, एंड ये हो सकता है कि लिस्ट इधर से भी कंबाइन हो रहा तो यहाँ पे भी एक ओवरलैपिंग गैप आ गया. तो व्हाट यू हैव टू डू ओवर हियर इज दैट यू नीड टू फाइंड ऑल ऑफ दीज ओवरलैपिंग गैप्स एज गिवन इन द क्वेश्चन. Now, to solve this given question, again, what you do is that you use a two-pointer approach. I'm just bluntly going to say because देखो list is already given in a sorted fashion, right? The list is already told you it's given in the sorted fashion. But and the one more thing, important thing to understand in the any interval question is that they will always give you a comma b. The a comma b is just the starting interval, starting and the close one. Understand this given fact. So anytime you are be given me something like this, you need to remember कि ये हो सकता है कि क्लोजिंग ब्रैकेट भी दे सकते हो मतलब लाइक ये वाला ब्रैकेट क्या बोलते हैं भाई इसको ठीक है you can be given this bracket so this will mean कि it's not exclusive this given element is not exclusive so some kind of questions do include those kind of variations so do not worry about that but our whole problem section is based on this inclusive state closed intervals wale so let's understand ki how we can solve this given question. So as I said ki we will use a two-pointer based approach. We will keep one pointer over here. We will keep one pointer over here. And then we will need to check is that if there is any overlapping happening. How will you check the overlapping which is happening? Again, we will use the same logic which we have been using up till now. यहाँ कंपेयर कर लेना तुम कैसे भी इसका यहाँ का अगर स्टार्ट देखो हाँ इसमें इंटरेस्टिंग बात आती है कि हाउ विल यू कंपेयर इट बिकॉज हो सकता है कि द लिस्ट वन एलिमेंट्स विल बिगिन फर्स्ट एंड लिस्ट टू एलिमेंट्स विल स्टार्ट लेटर ऑन राइट द लिस्ट वन एलिमेंट्स ऐसे भी हो सकता है ना कि यही तो हो रहा है कि बेसिकली ए starting earlier and B starting late. So now we need to see how will it will go. So what you can eventually do is that you can take any end of this. You can take the end of this and you can try to compare with the B over here. Okay, if this is causing an overlap, what you can do is that we need to understand कि ये overlap का gap कितना है तो ये overlap का gap कैसे identify करेंगे तो देखो ना ये तो start का मतलब ये जो gap है इधर ये point अगर मेरे को decide करना है if I have to decide that it will be max of what both the starts because we want to min क्यों लेंगे भाई यहाँ पे अगर 2 है यहाँ पे 5 है तो तुम 2 क्यों लोगे तुम 5 लोगे ना इधर तो यहाँ पे मतलब क्या हो गया max of 2,5 एंड यहाँ पे अगर सिलेक्ट करना है इसका क्या करेंगे min सिलेक्ट करेंगे यहाँ पर min क्योंकि we do not want the end to go beyond certain point now we do not want to select this end we want to select the smaller end so that's why we will select the smaller end तो यहाँ पे end मान लो कुछ क्या बोल रहे हो भाई 7 ले लो यहाँ पे 10 ले लो तो यहाँ पे smaller end select करो 7,10 so that's why that's how we're going to construct this new thing but let's try to understand one more problem statement how will we iterate the two pointer so try to understand this thing that this given pointer can cause an overlap right the smaller pointer will cause an overlap है ना the smaller pointer will cause an overlap the one which is let's say that कि इसका यहाँ पे end कुछ है ना इसका यहाँ पे end कुछ है ठीक है but whom do you think will cause a more or which of the part of the list will cause more overlap मैं फिर से एक्सप्लेन करूंगा ठीक है तुम्हें एक ऐसा लाइन दिया एंड तुम्हें कुछ ऐसा लाइन दिया ठीक है तुमने ये तुमने ये वाला पार्ट ऑलरेडी सॉल्व कर दिया है ठीक है ये लिस्ट L1 था ये लिस्ट L2 था अभी क्या आता है कि एक नेक्स्ट पार्ट आता है ये वाला ठीक है इसमें इसका नेक्स्ट एलिमेंट है इसका नेक्स्ट एलिमेंट ये है सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक इसको थोड़ा और ये कलर कर दो ठीक है तो अब क्या होगा ना यार कि you need to move the pointer in such a way because this can also cause an overlap this can also cause an overlap so you need to be smart enough to understand कि पहला overlap तो हमने decide कर लिया ये होगा इतना इसका but अभी जो if I increment I is equal to 0 to I is equal to 1 I know for sure this given element will cause an overlap now not this one this will not cause an overlap this one will cause an overlap और हमारा जो J pointer था इधर J is equal to 0 है तो J is equal to 0 ही रखना पड़ेगा because if we move over here to J is equal to 1 that means we are not counting this overlap which would have caused because of I is equal to 1 so we need to be very smart enough to how we can handle this case so if you are able to handle it that's more than sufficient I'll just quickly show you the code we are using the same logic over here again if there is a two pointer we have to return the list and as I showed you that we need to select the max of the start and we have to select the min of the start and we need to अंडरस्टैंड कि देखो अगर स्टार्ट इज लेस देन लिस्ट में ऑब्वियसली कब एंट्री पुश कर सकते हो जब स्टार्ट इज लेस देन इक्वल टू द एंड अदरवाइज द लिस्ट बिकम्स इनवैलिड राइट यू नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ द बेसिक थिंग्स एंड understand one final thing which I have talked about here ठीक है understand one final thing which I have talked over here is that कि how do you iterate in which section you increment I element so you increment the I element based on the end point ठीक है जिसका end छोटा है वो ज्यादा ओवरलैपिंग करने का चांसेस ज्यादा करेगा हम उसको इंक्रीमेंट नहीं करेंगे मतलब लाइक ठीक है सो आई मीन कि देखना कि इस सॉरी उसको इंक्रीमेंट करेंगे, माय बैड माय बैड। तो मैं इसलिए, अरे यार क्या बोल दिया, ये आई इज इक्वल टू 1 था, इस ऑब्वियसली इस साइड जाएंगे हम, ठीक है, आई इज इक्वल टू 1 पे जाएंगे, तो आई इज इक्वल टू 0 से आई इज इक्वल टू 1 पे गए, एंड यही हमारा ओवरलैप कॉज करेगा, इसलिए हम आई प्लस प्लस कर रहे हैं, नहीं तो हम